The line at the supermarket was nothing unusual. Just another ordinary afternoon in a small American town. The air carried the faint hum of chatter, mixed with the rhythmic beeps of the cash register as groceries slid across the scanner. Shopping carts rattled against the tiled floor, and the smell of fresh bread lingered near the bakery aisle. It was routine, the kind of scene that went unnoticed every single day. But that day was destined to be remembered. When the man in the perfectly tailored charcoal suit stepped forward, silence seemed to follow him like a shadow. His shoes shined brighter than the waxed floor. His tie was sharp, his presence commanding. He placed his groceries carefully on the conveyor belt, every movement deliberate, as if he had done it 1,000 times before. Then, with the quiet confidence of someone who never expected rejection, he reached into his wallet and handed over a sleek black credit card. The cashier swiped it once. The machine beeped. Nothing. She swiped it again, a hint of impatience in her motion. The screen blinked and then flashed a single word that hung heavy in the air. Declined. For the briefest moment, it was as if the entire world froze. The buzz of conversations fell away. Even the hum of the air conditioner seemed to vanish. Shoppers leaned in. The people behind him shifted uneasily. A smirk formed on one man's lips. Then came the whispers, quick and cruel, spreading like fire in dry grass. The cashier threw her head back, laughing louder than necessary. Her laughter wasn't just a sound. It was a knife. Declined, she repeated, making sure everyone heard. The man's jaw tightened. His eyes dropped to the floor, and beside him stood a little girl, no more than 7, tugging nervously at his hand. Her braids swayed as she tilted her head upward, her wide eyes filled with confusion and worry. Nobody knew him. To them he was just another customer whose card had failed. But fate knew better. Life knew better. Because the man standing there was Alexander Grant, a billionaire whose name was etched into skyscrapers, whose empire stretched across steel and glass, who had built his fortune on grit, vision, and an iron will. He had shaken hands with presidents, dined with kings, and sat at tables where destinies were decided. Yet here in this small-town grocery store, none of that mattered. His wealth, his name, his empire, all of it evaporated into irrelevance the moment that one word appeared. Declined. And it wasn't a mistake. The card wasn't faulty. There was no fraud. This was something greater. A lesson carefully disguised as humiliation, crafted by life itself. For years, Alexander had walked above the struggles of ordinary people. He never stopped to notice the mother counting coins for milk, the old man stretching a dollar bill for bread, the teenager putting items back on the shelf because they couldn't afford them. His world was skyscrapers, private jets, luxury beyond imagination. But in this moment, all of that power crumbled. The cashier laughed again, tossing her hair as if mocking him gave her importance. A few people pointed, chuckled, and leaned forward eagerly, hungry to see a man fall. The spectacle of it fed their pride. They didn't see a human being. They saw entertainment. But the little girl at his side saw something else. She didn't see the billionaire, the mogul, the empire builder. She saw only a man shrinking beneath the weight of shame, a man stripped of armor. She glanced at the groceries lined up on the conveyor belt. Bread, milk, fruit, and simple items. Nothing extravagant. Her small hands clenched in determination. Then, guided by something far greater than herself, she reached into her pocket. Her fingers pulled out 3 wrinkled dollar bills and a handful of coins. The kind of treasure a child saves from birthday money, from allowances, from nickels found beneath couch cushions. Her hands trembled, but her courage did not. The store grew still once again. but this time for a different reason. Laughter faded. Whispers choked into silence. Every eye watched as this tiny child stretched her hand toward the cashier, her voice barely more than a whisper. "Please, take this. I want to help." The world held its breath. Alexander Grant, the man who had written checks larger than the lifetime earnings of the very people now staring at him, froze. His lips parted, but no words came. His chest tightened. His eyes burned, not with pride, not with anger, but with tears he had locked away for decades. The fortress around his heart cracked. Humility rushed in like a storm. The girl's gift was small in number, but infinite in value. She had given him dignity. She had given him compassion. She had reminded him what true wealth looked like. Around them, the air shifted. Shoppers who had mocked him moments earlier now lowered their heads in shame. Some shuffled back, guilty that they had laughed while a child had chosen kindness. The cashier's grin faltered, her arrogance replaced by something closer to regret. Alexander bent down to the child's level. His voice trembled as he whispered, "Thank you." She smiled softly, not knowing she had just changed the course of his life. He didn't return to his limousine waiting outside. Instead, he walked her home. Her world was humble. A peeling house with a porch that sagged under the weight of years. Inside, her mother worked tirelessly, folding laundry while stirring a pot of soup. Her face showed fatigue, but also strength. She welcomed Alexander without suspicion, without judgment. That night, Alexander lay awake, the image of the girl offering her last coins burning in his mind. For years he had chased numbers, towers, and profits, but in her small hands he had seen the richest treasure, compassion. By morning his decision was made. Weeks later, the world heard the news. Alexander Grant, once feared for his ruthless business tactics, had announced a massive foundation dedicated to families in need. Grocery bills across towns were paid in secret. Scholarships appeared for children who had no dreams of college. Homes were repaired, communities rebuilt. And Alexander was there, not sending checks from a penthouse, but walking the aisles of grocery stores, listening to stories, shaking hands, sharing moments. At the heart of it all was the little girl in her worn purple shirt. He made sure her family never wanted for anything again. But he didn't turn her kindness into a performance. He protected it, honored it, and carried it like a flame. Years later, when people spoke of Alexander Grant, they didn't mention his towers or his billions. They spoke of the day his card was declined, the day a child's small act of kindness melted the armor of a billionaire. That became his true legacy. Not wealth measured in steel or money, but wealth measured in humanity. And so this tale is told again, that true wealth is never found in a bank account. It lives in the courage to be kind when the world mocks you, in the strength to give when you have little, and in the power to see dignity in another human being. That little girl, with nothing in her pockets but everything in her heart, reminded us that compassion has no price tag. Sometimes the smallest voices carry the loudest lessons. So I ask you, dear listener, what would you have done that day? Would you have mocked, or would you have stood beside her? If this story touched your heart, let it be more than just words. Carry it into your daily life. Be the hand that lifts, the smile that comforts, the hope that reminds someone they are not alone. Because one act of kindness can change not just a day, not just a life, but the course of history itself.